Hey, it's Jennifer from Quiltin', Stitchin' and Kitties. Today I've got a little bit different of a Quilt As You Go block that I think you might be interested in because it's very flexible and you can use it for a lot of different things. So let's get started. The blocks finish at 7.5. You cut the background, which becomes the backing of the of the block, at 9.5. They have a template that's called Fast and Done Quilting, and it's Batting Buddy. It's very similar to the other templates that I showed you before. So the outside of this template is the 9.5 inches. So you can use this to cut your blocks. You can also just use a ruler. And then the inside of the template is the size that your block is going to finish at. So this is 7.5 inches. You use both parts in different ways, but it's great. But you can use rulers too, and I'm going to show you a little trick if you don't want to spend the money on a template. So I cut this block out at 9.5. I'm going to lay down the batting buddy exactly on the edges, and then I'm going to take my 7.5 inch batting square and put it right inside the hole, making sure I've got it just perfect. Then I carefully lift off the outside edge and I pin the corners. So you want to go on a diagonal from each corner and just put a pin in. And that's just to make sure that it doesn't shift as you're doing your sewing. So you're actually going to be sewing the blocks and quilting at the same time, which is really nice if you don't have the ability to have a long arm or have somebody do it for you, or you just want to get it quilted yourself and you don't care if it's perfect, quote unquote. I think it's perfect though. It comes out really cool. So whatever the size of your center strip is, and I decided to make mine 2.5. What you do is you put your ruler at half of the width of the strip, so 1.25. Put let me turn that around. 1.25 at the corners. So you'll be going off 1.25 this way. So half the size of your strip. And then just draw yourself a partial line, doesn't have to be the whole thing. Then flip it around, do the same thing again, 1.25 right at the corners. And then, oops, let me get that perfect. Put a little line again. And all that does for you is show you where to place the center piece. So what I have done, I've pre-cut my strips to length. And this one needs to be a good, oh gosh, I think on this strip, 11 inches. And you lay that right inside those two lines. So it really helps you. Make sure that you've got a little bit sticking off of both ends so that your batting is completely covered. So you may have to shift a little bit. Okay, so I definitely have this covered, and I definitely have this covered. That piece is right side up. That's your centerpiece. You don't need to pin it at this point. It really sticks well to the batting. Then take your next strip, and this was pre-cut at 9.5, and put it right sides down. When I use batiks and I can't tell, sometimes I'll put a little mark on the right side. So you lay that down, making sure that you're on both sides of the batting here. And then go ahead and stick in a couple of pins because we're going to be doing our 1/4 inch seam allowance right across here. So after you've sewn that, it's going to flip this way, right sides will be up. Do the same thing for the other side of it. In this case now I'm going to put some yellow, and this is a very bright batik quilt. I just thought, oh, what the heck, it'll be fun. And pin those, stitch 1/4 of an inch across. Now, very importantly, do not stitch on the background fabric. Start your stitching like 1 stitch in from the edge of the batting. So towards the center. Because of the fact you're going to be turning this, you don't want any stitches in it. So stitch both sides, flip them and press, and magic, they look like this. Then all you have left for the pattern I did, because I've only had 5 pieces across the block, you're going to do the corners. And these were cut at 4.5-inch squares and then cut on the diagonal. So same thing, all you do is take the longest side, the diagonal, and lay it down across the edge, right sides together. Make sure it goes to both sides off the batting. Put in a couple of pins. So it looks like that. Do the same thing on the other side. Take it to your sewing machine. Same thing, 1/4 of an inch. Make sure don't stitch onto the backing. Then when those are sewed together, they will be flipped over. And basically, your block is done and it's quilted. All right, I've sewed the entire block together. And now we're going to trim. So take your block and put it block side down, backing side up. Now we're going to trim. Take your backing and pull it back from the batting so you can see your batting. Then take a ruler, put it on the edge of your batting, and trim off the extra block fabric, being very careful you're not catching anything else. So now that will look like this. Go to the other side, pull it back, do the same thing. If a stitch is caught, just take it out. Line up your ruler on the edge of the batting again and trim. Do that to all 4 sides, and when you've done, it looks like this. So now you've got 1 inch of backing all the way around. The block is done, it's all quilted. So now it's time to put the blocks together. Once your blocks are all trimmed, ready to go, now we're going to put them together. Now, logically, you always put right sides together, but in this case, you do not. You put backing sides together. Okay, so get them positioned exactly as you want them to go together. And I decided I want mine to come like this. So now I'm just going to flip these pieces together. And then I'm going to pin and make sure that it is just as perfectly pinned as you can get it so that these blocks go together really well. And then you're going to go to your sewing machine and you're going to stitch. Can't seem to get this pin. There we go. Okay, we're going to stitch right along. Oops, let me get that back in the camera a little bit. Right along the edge of the good block, good fabric, just like this. And what I want you to do is feel with your fingers so it feels like they're lined up on both sides. Go to the excuse me, go to the machine, stitch right along that edge. Go all the way to the top of the backing fabric and all the way down to the bottom of the backing fabric. Once you've got them sewed together, you've got the excess fabric on the top side of the quilt. So I'm kind of looking at going, okay, how do I finish this up? And I did it wrong the first time, and then finally it dawned on me, oh my gosh, this is much easier than I thought. Take a raw edge and fold it under so it touches the line of stitching. Then fold that piece down. I'm going to show you again with a close-up, hopefully, in the camera. Hold this with my chin. So take the raw edge, fold it to the line of stitching, and then fold it down. And so now what you've got is these, oops, it's hard to hold this in the camera. I'll try doing it this way. You've got these two edges that are finished, and all you do is a top stitch 1/8 of an inch away from each edge with a matching color, unless you want it to show. If you want it to show, let it show. But remember, the thread that you're using to sew this together is the thread that becomes your quilting on the back. So I decided I wanted mine to match the back, and also because I'm going to be stitching on this, my thread is going to match this, so it's not really going to show. So you're not going to see quilting on this side. You would actually see the quilting on this side. And then you just keep, whoops, there went the pincushion. You just keep going as big as you want, as small as you want. When you get to do the, you do all your rows together first, and then, all your blocks together in rows, and then flip your rows over and sew your rows together exactly the same way. This is great for scraps. This is great for coordination of fabrics, anything you want. So I don't have this finished, but you know what I'll do is I'll add another section to the video. So I'll be back after I've got it mostly done. Oh, one more thing. I did have this quilt up in my last video, but I forgot to say anything about it. So it is an Australian fabric quilt, all of it. This pattern is typically called a partial log cabin. Sometimes they call it a bento box, but basically here's the block. So little block, little piece here, and then just keep going. And you can make it as big as you want or as small as you want. It's not a rail fence because of the way the pattern goes, but it looks sort of like a rail fence when you're finished. Fun, easy, just a really cool quilt to do. Still haven't quite finished the binding on it, but it'll be another lap quilt because that's pretty much all I do anymore. All right, so I will see you again with a finished product. My quilt is finished except for binding. I really enjoyed making this, and I think it came out really well. The colors are definitely striking, to say the least. I'd hoped to make it a little bit bigger, but unfortunately I didn't have any more background fabric, so that was it. All I have left to do is the binding, and basically you just fold the edge over halfway, fold it over again, stitch it just like you did the rest of the quilt. I will put a close-up of the stitching in at the end of this section. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them. I'm not sure what's coming next, but I will see you again real soon. Take care of yourselves. Happy New Year.